Romans chapter 8 verses 28 to 30. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. For those God foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he might be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. And those he predestined, he also called. Those he called, he also justified. Those he justified, he also glorified. Wonderful verses that have brought comfort to many down through the centuries. They've been described as being like a pillow that we can lay our head on and go to sleep at night. But let's break them down. In verse 28, it starts by saying, "And we know." There are some things that we don't know. Like yesterday, we were thinking we don't always know how to pray. But there are some things that we do know. We know that in all things, that's perhaps the wonder of these verses, that it's in all things, that even in our suffering, even in our sin, even in our disappointment, even in the midst of lockdown number 3, God works. God is ceaselessly, energetically, tirelessly, purposefully working on our behalf. But what is he doing? How is he working? Well, he's working for the good of those who love him. Now, here's where we sometimes go wrong on this verse. We sometimes equate that good with working for our prosperity or our health or just our short-term happiness. And sometimes God does do that, and praise God that he does. But the good that he's working for comes in verse 29. It's so that we might be conformed to the image of his Son, and so that Jesus might be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. So that we would be conformed in our character and conduct to be like Jesus, which is far better. Far better that God makes us less selfish than just gives us everything that we want. Far better that we learn patience from God than he just removes our trials. Far better that we become more loving, more sympathetic, more empathetic with others than we never face any suffering. These are comforting verses, but at times they're really challenging too. Just like we might use sandpaper to smooth down the rough edges off a piece of wood. God can use tough times to knock the rough edges off our lives, to smooth us down and make us more into the image of his Son Jesus. But if we love God, then we know that that is far better than being left to keep on sinning, far better than being left to suffer without a purpose.